For this diversity style guide, we'll be talking about LGBTQ+, how to report, problems with reporting, and advice for reporting.
To start off, we're going to go over some key terms. First off is gender. This is someone's self-expression, the way they present themselves to the world, and can be fluid between male and female or outside of those boundaries. Cisgender is when someone's sex assigned at birth matches their gender expression/identity. Agender is when someone does not align themselves within the traditional systems of gender and sees themselves as living without gender. Transgender is when someone's gender identity does not correspond with their sex assigned at birth. Gender binary is the idea that there are only two genders, male and female. Heteronormativity is the idea that everyone is heterosexual and that heterosexuality is the superior sexuality. Intersex is when an individual is born with genitals that differ from the two expected patterns of male and female. Pansexual is an individual who experiences sexual, romantic, or spiritual attraction to individuals of all gender identities and expression.
A few problems reporters have encountered in the past when interviewing trans individuals are stereotyping and asking invasive questions. In this clip, Katie Couric interviews transgender model Carmen Carrera and asks her invasive questions.
Your private parts are different now, aren't they?
I don't want to talk about it because it's really personal. And I don't know. I'd rather talk about my modeling stuff. I'd rather talk about being in W and being, maybe in Italian Vogue and doing fun stuff and showing people that after the transition, there's still life to live.
You can tell by this clip that Katie Couric is making Carmen Carrera visibly uncomfortable with her invasive questions. A good rule to follow would be to not ask any trans person a question that you would not ask a cisgendered person. A good example of an interview would be this example that we are about to show of Ellen DeGeneres interviewing actress Nicole Maines.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be really hard on, especially having an identical twin brother and going to school. And were you bullied at all?
Yeah, well, we tried our best to work with the school and with, the other families in the school system. And we did a gradual transition. I started transitioning when I was in first grade. And every year we kind of tacked a new thing onto it. Like, okay, this year you're gonna wear pink. This year you're gonna grow your hair out.
In this interview, Ellen does not ask her invasive questions, but instead asks her about her childhood and commends her for representing the trans community in a positive light. Another problem with reporting would be blatant erasure. The following clip is from NPR's Morning Edition.
There's a culture war in this country. Americans in recent years, as you know, have become more secular. They don't go to church as often. Bible reading, prayers in public are now frowned upon. And of course, in addition to that, a lot of people have become much more supportive of LGBT rights. And in reaction to that, biblically conservative Americans feel that their faith is under assault. And so there is a real reaction to those trends. That's the background to this.
People are saying if I have to interact with certain people in certain ways, it's a limitation on my religious freedom.
The problem with this clip is that the hosts of the show aren't taking into account LGBT people and their experiences. A good piece of advice would be to take into account everyone's experiences and everyone's perspective in order to properly report. And one more problem with LGBT reporting is bringing up a person's sexuality or gender when it is completely irrelevant to the story.
Another problem with LGBT topics in the media is misrepresentation. This clip is from an episode of Big Mouth where they introduce a pansexual character.
Allie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I play soccer, I'm a Ravenclaw, and not to make all you normies shit your Old Navy undies, but I am pansexual.
Pansexual thing sounds intriguing. Could you speak to that some more?
I'm not sure I'm ready to unravel all of this in my classroom.
Pansexual means I'm into boys, girls, and everyone in between.
I thought that was bisexual.
No, bisexuality is so binary. Being pansexual means my sexual preference isn't limited by gender identity.
And gender is like male or female, right? And it's a choice? No? How do people talk these days?
Oh my god. Okay, it's like some of you borings like tacos, and some of you like burritos, And if you're bisexual, you like tacos and burritos. But I'm saying I like tacos and burritos, and I could be into a taco that was born a burrito, sure, okay, or a burrito that's transitioning into a taco, comprende?
This clip is problematic because it puts trans people onto the sexual spectrum, and they don't want trans to be another category of that sexual spectrum. They just want to be seen as the gender that they are transitioning to. It can come off as fetishizing and can cause a lot of harm to the community. A good way to avoid misrepresentation like this is to hire LGBT writers, or to even just have some friends of yours who are in the community look over the work to make sure that it's not offensive in any way.
In recent years, there has been a rise in LGBTQ characters in children's cartoons, such as Princess Bubblegum and Marceline the Vampire Queen from Adventure Time, Ruby and Sapphire from Steven Universe, and Asami and Korra from The Legend of Korra. These characters have shown that you can have positive representation of LGBTQ identities in children's media, and that doing so is important both for the kids and for the people around them. Children who could realize that they are LGBTQ have role models they can look up to and relate to, and children who meet LGBTQ people will understand what that means. While there is still backlash that comes with the decision to represent non-straight and non-cis characters, especially in kids' shows, these cartoons, and others doing the same, are now more popular than ever, showing that many people support the inclusion of LGBTQ characters in children's media.
I'm not Ralph anymore. I'm Rachel.
Wow, cool! That is awesome! Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go!
This has been our diversity style guide on how to properly report on LGBT issues and members of the community.